So if it's a organization that's calling, that person actually works for that organization. If it's a executive recruiter or a headhunter, they most likely work for a firm or an agency, and they would not be part of that organization. So that's the first thing you want to know, because there's a lot of times when I've talked to people, they're like, I don't know if they're an external or internal. So that's the first thing you want to know. Second, and really important thing you want to know, and a lot of people don't know this and don't ask this, if it's an external recruiter, and you want to write this down because it's important to remember, are they retained by that client, or are they contingent? Again, retained or contingent. The difference between the two is if I'm retained with a company, and when I work with clients, I only work on retainer. That means that they have paid me a fee, and I'm working exclusively with that organization, and no other recruiters are working with them to find a position. Contingent means that there is no agreement. The only agreement we have is based on the fee percentage that the client pays. But they could be working with me and a lot of other recruiters. So if somebody's calling you and they are a contingent recruiter, chances are they may have just gotten it from HR, and there's nothing wrong with that, but there may be no relationship there. If it's retained situation and they're working on retainer, that's the best situation you can be in, because they know the company. They probably most likely have worked with the hiring manager before. They most likely have placed their people before. So you really want to remember that. That's really, really important. A lot of times people don't really ask those questions, which is understandable if you're not in the recruiting industry. So again, internal, external, contingent, meaning that company's working with a lot of different recruiters. Think about somebody who's dating a lot, and retainer is exclusive relationship. It's just a one-on-one situation. So that's a really important thing to ask. The other thing is when you are talking to a recruiter, you want to really know and find out and ask questions what the relationship is with that organization, whether they're contingent or retained, especially if they're contingent though. But you just want to know, have you met the hiring manager before? Have you spoken to the hiring manager? I know it's hard to believe, but there are a lot of recruiters out there that will never spoken to the hiring manager and will only get the job through HR and work on a position. I would never do that at this point in my career, but there are a lot of recruiters that do. And that just isn't the best situation for you, because if they've never spoken with a hiring manager, they really don't know the personality. And I don't care how great that human resources individual is, it is not as good as that direct, that recruiter, like someone like myself, either meeting somebody via Zoom, in person, or over the phone. So you really want to find out what their relationship is. The second thing you want to find out is, have they made the placements at that company before? And what do they know about the organization? So really, before you get into the nuts and bolts of really the position, or once they kind of tell you what they're looking for the position, kind of slow them down, or actually ask them if you could schedule a call where you could have some time to really think about questions that you want to ask. Maybe you can do some research on a company. If they're very interested in you, I promise you, I'm going to reschedule that call with you and find a time that works for you. So it's okay to slow them down a little bit and say, hey, I really am interested, but I do have some more questions. When would you be able to talk here in the next 24 hours where we could carve out 30 more minutes or 45 minutes so I can ask some questions? That way you can go do some due diligence and look at that company, look and check out that recruiter too. Does that recruiter have a good work history? Do they, are they well established? Do they have good recommendations on LinkedIn? Like, these are things that you want to look into. You don't want to be just sending your resume to anybody. You really want to make sure that you get a good feeling about this recruiter. And so I'll do a second video going into the second half, but what we learned from this is the first thing you want to find out: internal, external, contingent, retained. And you want to really make sure that you get into the nitty-gritty of what that recruiter really knows about that organization. Have they worked with them before? Have they met the hiring manager before? What can they tell you about the actual company but also what can they tell you about that hiring manager and the personality and their relationship with them? Because that is such a huge difference when you're looking for a position, especially when they're prepping you for an interview. If I've never spoken to the hiring manager, I've never met the hiring manager, I've never worked with that company before, and my only interaction is in human resources, I will not be great for you to set you up successfully for that interview. And so a good headhunter and a good executive recruiter is going to know that information. So if they don't, that should be a pink flag. Maybe not necessarily a red flag, but it's pretty much a really bright pink flag. So just really dig into that. I'll do another video into the second half. Have a great night. Bye.